Martell Holt is reportedly planning to plead guilty to harassing communication and non-domestic violence harassing communication. Now that's a big deal because this plea essentially changes the weight of what he was originally facing. Original case involved allegations of revenge P, which is a much more serious charge. And that was tied to accusations that he sent an image to Melody with threats of releasing it publicly. That kind of case in Alabama can be tied to domestic violence and harassment. So when it first came out, fans were shaken. The thought that Martell had gone that far was disturbing, and it had everyone talking about how his behavior has been spiraling for years now in this plea. Martell is saying he's guilty of harassing communication, which includes things like text messages, calls, or other forms of constant unwanted contact. Also guilty of non-DV harassing communication. That's important because when you remove the domestic violence connection, it means the charge loses that revenge P weight, and the punishment becomes a lot lighter. Instead of facing months behind bars or a much heavier penalty, Martell is basically offering to pay $300 in fines, a $100 bail bond plus court fees. On top of that, he's waiving his right to appeal. It's almost like he just wants to close this chapter quickly. Now, let's pause right there, because $300, a $100 bond, some court costs. For a man who was once accused of such a serious crime, that feels like a slap on the wrist. And that's why this story is making so many people raise their eyebrows. Stay with me, because we're going to connect this to the bigger picture, especially when it comes to how Melody, Marsa Scott, Letitia Scott, Kimmy Scott, Morris Scott, Stormy Steele, and Destiny Payton all play into this larger narrative. It's bigger than just Martell. It's about how the entire cast has been shaped by his choices and what this case says about accountability in their world. Think back to when this all first came out. Martell was already battling Melody in the custody courts. He was already being dragged on social media for his behavior. And fans were already calling him controlling and manipulative. When the Revenge P charge hit the blogs, it looked like his entire image had finally collapsed. Remember, this is the same Martell who used to parade around as the businessman with the perfect family and who loved to throw shade at other cast members, like Marsa and Letitia, for their own marital struggles. And now, here he was, caught in something that could have landed him in jail. So now with this plea, it almost feels like Martell is trying to take the easiest way out. Pay a little money, admit to harassment, but not to anything tied to Revenge P, and just move on. He's waived his right to appeal, which almost feels like his way of saying, let's bury this. Let's pretend it's over. But can you really bury something like this? That's the question fans are asking. Because the truth is, even if he gets off with this lighter punishment, the stigma doesn't just disappear. People remember. Melody certainly remembers. And when it comes to custody of their kids, this still plays a huge role. And here's where it gets interesting. Remember how Martell kept pushing back this criminal case? Every time it was supposed to move forward, it got delayed. And because of that, Melody also had to delay parts of the custody case. It almost looked like Martell was playing games with the court system, dragging it out so he wouldn't have to face both things at once. That frustrated a lot of fans because it looked like he was manipulating the system to buy himself time. But now, with this plea, things might finally move forward. Melody can use this guilty plea to harassment in her custody battle to argue that his behavior isn't safe or healthy for the children. And that's where this case connects directly back to her. Now, let's talk about Melody for a moment. Because while Martell is over here trying to protect his peace and close this chapter, Melody is out here glowing. She's focusing on her businesses, her kids, her music, and now her TikTok show. Fans are excited for her because she's creating new opportunities and moving forward with her life. And here's the thing, if Melody wasn't on this positive, Path Martell's situation would probably hit her harder. But right now, she's focused. She's strong and she's surrounded by her village, including Mama Van and her kids. She's not letting Martell's plea deal distract her from the bigger picture, but still, not act like this isn't triggering. Because, for Melody, this plea deal probably feels like yet another example of how the system goes soft on men who harass and control women. Think about it. Women who come forward in cases like this often get asked all the wrong questions. Did you date him? Were you intimate? Did you lead him on? Instead of focusing on the behavior of the man, the system often puts the spotlight on the woman as if she caused the toxic behavior. That's why so many people are calling this plea deal a slap on the wrist. It's not just about Martell, it's about what it says to women everywhere who deal with harassment. And let's be real, Martell's behavior has always had red flags. Even his co-stars like Kimmy Scott and Maury Scott have pointed out moments where his ego or pride seemed to take over. And Marcia Scott, for all of his own controversies with Letitia Scott, has even thrown shade Martell's way, reminding fans that Martell isn't as perfect as he once tried to appear. The men on this show love to go back and forth, but the truth is Martell's behavior stands out as one of the most extreme. Now, I want you to stick with me because we still need to talk about how this plea could shape the next season of the show. If you think this won't be mentioned on camera, think again. Even if the cast tries to play it cool, fans will demand answers. Stormy Steele is already someone who isn't afraid to speak her mind, and Destiny Payton has her own history of clashing with Martell. Imagine how explosive things will get if this case becomes part of the storyline. Martell might want to close the chapter. But reality TV never forgets. And here's the kicker: Martell seems to think that waiving his appeal makes him look like the bigger man. Like he's at peace, ready to move on. But fans aren't buying it. Too many people, it just looks like he's doing whatever it takes to avoid real accountability. Because, let's be honest, 3 months in county jail